Hello, I'm going to be doing a presentation for my class, ITL516 at National University. It's a week 3B flipped video assignment, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching a standard to a pretend class of third grade students. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi class, before I begin the new lesson, I just want to go over the classroom rules and behavioral expectations that I expect of you guys. So number 1, respect others at all times. So that includes me and your peers and other teachers on campus. And number 2, use appropriate language. So always use kind words. Number 3, raise your hand if you have a question or for permission to leave your seat. Number 4, keep your hands, feet, and body to yourself. And number 5, have listening ears when it is someone's turn to speak. So our new standard today falls under the domain of numbers and operations in base 10. So the specific standard for that is to use place value understanding to round whole numbers to the nearest 10 or 100. Our learning goals for today are: I can round 2 and 3 digit numbers to the nearest 10 or 100 using place value, and I can use a number line to help me round. And here is an example of just what we're going to be doing today, and I'll go ahead and explain that in just a few minutes. But before we get started into the new lesson, we're going to go ahead and put your thinking caps on and review what we should already know, okay? So place value. What does that mean? We should already know this. So place value is the position where a digit is in the number that determines its value. So here is a representation of a number. There are blocks grouped in 3 sections here. So you can see that there is 100 in a group, and then 3 10s in one group, and then 8 1s. Okay, so I wrote down here for you guys at the bottom, there's 100, and then 3 10s equals to 30, because if you add 10 3 times, it's going to be 30, okay? And then 8 1s. So this represents the number 138. So if I were to tell you to find the place value of 3 and 138, you would tell me that the place value of 3 is in the tens place. And if I ask you to find the place value of 1 and 138, you will tell me that the 1 is in the hundreds place. And then the 8 should be in the ones place. So here is an example that I want you guys to fill out. So I have 3 blank spaces representing the hundreds place, the tens place, and the ones place, okay? So, and the number is 78. I want you guys to go ahead and fill in the boxes of what you think where the numbers belong in these boxes, okay? So you should have came up with the number 0 in the hundreds place because there is no number in the hundreds place, 7 in the tens place, and 8 ones. So this is how it should look like, okay? So 78 should be 7 tenths and 8 ones. So moving on, we're going to be learning about a new math vocabulary term called rounding. What is rounding? So rounding is making a number simpler but keeping its value close to what it was. So here is an example of rounding. Here is a number line from 30 to 40, and they give you 3 numbers: 32, 35, and 38. So if I ask you to round these numbers to the nearest 10, as you can see here, that these arrows point to the numbers that they're closely rounded to. So 32 would be rounded to 30, 35, and 38 would be rounded to 40. And I'll explain just why in the next slide. So when we want to round a number to the nearest 10 or 100, we have to look at the place value to the right to help you to decide if you should round up or down. So for me, I like to underline or highlight the place value that I'm going to be rounding to. So as you can see, I highlighted the place values of 100 and the hundreds place and the numbers in the tens place red. So, and then with that, you want to look at the numbers right next to it, to the right of it. And those numbers will help you determine if you should round up or down. So as you can see here, I have arrows next to the number 4 and 5. So if that number right next to the place value that you're rounding to is 5 or greater, you want to round up. And if it's 4 or less, then you want to round down. So for the example I gave of 128, since we're rounding to the hundredths place, 2 is right next to the hundredths place, right? Because it's in the tens place. That number is less than 4. So you would want to round that number down. And those place values of 10 and 1 is going to be changed into a 0, and the hundredths place will stay the same. So you're rounding down, okay? So 128 rounded to the nearest hundred is 100. The other example is 28. So this one, we're rounding to the nearest 10. So the number right next to the 2 to the right is 8. And 8 is obviously greater than 5. So you're going to be rounding up, which means you add a 1 to the tens place and then change the ones place into a 0, which makes it 30. So 28 rounded to the nearest 10 is 30. So you're probably wondering why we need to learn how to round. There are a few reasons why. So rounding can be used when an exact number isn't needed and an approximate answer will do. So for an example, giving a tip for a waiter at a restaurant. So if I go to a restaurant by myself and usually for me, I always know that I spend about at least $15 or less on myself. So if I go to the restaurant thinking in my head that I'm going to spend $15 or less on my meal plus a tip, I am going to round that number up to the nearest 10. So I'm going to bring $20 just in case so that I have enough to pay for my meal. So you see how rounding kind of ties in, and it's important because had I brought just $10, I may have not had enough to pay for my meal and I wouldn't have been able to eat. So here's a short video of what I just taught you guys. It ties in everything I just said, and you guys are able to visually see how rounding is done. Before you guys begin the lesson, you guys can choose a partner to work with. And as you guys are working with your partner, make sure you guys use the math talk poster so that you guys can discuss your answers and why you guys disagree or agree with your partners. Also, you guys can use the manipulatives that I have for you guys. So I printed out some frogs and some bunnies, just like you see in the picture, and you guys are able to use them as if they are hopping on the number line. They're either going to be hopping to the left or to the right, depending on depending on if the number is rounding up or down. Those of you that need accommodations, you guys will be able to have more time to work on your handouts or worksheets if you guys don't finish them. You guys are able to come into my classroom during break or recess to work with me if you guys need more help. And also, while you guys are working in the classroom, if you need a quiet place to work, just let me know and I can open the classroom door and you can work right outside where it's more quieter. Or if you need headphones or earplugs, I can give those to you as well. So great job, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening and paying attention the entire time. Here's a little reminder to never stop learning. And let's go ahead and begin our worksheets and activities for the day. Thank you.